Hello, my name is Anuska and welcome to my channel. And on this week's video, I want to talk all about vocal expression because it's really at the heart of what I do and why people want to work on their voice. So people are ultimately looking to access the most expressive version of their voice when they decide to do voice training. So whether that's they want to be more authoritative, they want to be more persuasive, they want to perhaps access more dynamics in their voice. Maybe they want to project more freely and easily. Maybe they want more clarity in their voice. But ultimately, it's all about ultimate expression and communication. Now, my philosophy and my training is that we already are, as a human being, naturally expressive. And we see that with toddlers. Anyone, I don't know why there's a random fly around me. We see that with toddlers, and anyone that's spent any time around toddlers knows how expressive they are, whether that's crying, having a tantrum, screaming, laughing, they're very, very animated. And we were all a toddler at one point. And then somewhere along the line, that gets beaten out of us, not literally, but that gets beaten out of us as we enter into childhood and adolescence and then into adulthood. The other thing to mention with toddlers is because the ego hasn't developed when we're that age. So that's why we don't have this fear of expression. As the ego develops, it starts to shut that part of ourselves down because we learn that's not safe, that's not acceptable. People won't like you if you do that. You might actually experience like some negativity or criticism when you perhaps talk too much, or perhaps when you're really loud, or, and it was going to look different for different people. But also as adults, there's moments where we access that expression when we're not in our head. So if you think about it, when you're eating a really delicious meal and you might go, this is amazing, but we don't think about it. We don't think, right, now I'm going to go, because I like this. It just happens very automatically and almost unconsciously. So that expression is there. And the irony is I use that exercise quite a lot with speakers. Because it's something that's already kind of inbuilt in us. We know how to make that sound, and actually it's a really interesting sound in many ways because the voice is moving, and it's also a very resonant sound. So we already know this stuff, and equally, if you think about it, if you're someone that likes going to watch your favorite team in a big sporting event, or like me, you like going to watch live music, you might find yourself cheering. And again, that's a very expressive thing that we do. Or like me, if you like going on scary roller coasters, you might find yourself screaming on them. So again, we naturally are expressive in situations that we have been taught are socially acceptable. And what my work is tapping into that part of ourselves that already knows how to express. It's just we've got in our own way. So as I mentioned, we learn to shut the voice down. Once the ego starts to develop, it really starts to say, this is acceptable, this is not. It's not necessarily explicitly said to you, don't do that, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just implied that, you get more love and attention when you're quiet and you just sit there and you work hard. But equally, it could be you find you get more attention if you're the joker of the family or in the classroom, or if you're just really loud and then people are forced to listen to you. So it's going to show up very differently for different people. But whatever kind of persona you take on with your voice, you're going to push the opposite into your shadow. That becomes very unconscious. And so if, for example, if you're someone that has learned being quiet actually helps you sort of survive in the world, then being loud is going to be very threatening to that kind of ego persona. And this is something very common that I work with a lot of people with. And they really have a lot of negative ideas around loudness. But it can be the other way, and I've worked with clients as well, where they're very comfortable being very assertive and very loud and, owning the room. But then when it comes to that more vulnerable, that softer speech, they associate that with a kind of weakness, and people are just going to walk over me and no one's going to listen to me. So ultimately with this work, it's really allowing our true self to shine and being able to access all these different parts of ourselves depending on what we're doing, so that when we want to have a more vulnerable, sort of softer voice, we can. When we need that more assertive, louder voice, then we can access that too. and we're not afraid to access it. We're not thinking, no, 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 I can't do this. This is not acceptable. So, but the wisdom is within us already. We just have to get out of our own way. Now, that's not to say training isn't important, because remember, we are working with muscles when we're working with voice. It's also a fine motor skill, so it has to be trained consistently and repetitively. Much like if you wanted a strong, healthy body, if you never did any exercise, you never lifted any weights or ran or cycled or anything, your body's not going to be strong and flexible. It's the same with the voice. We do have to train the muscles of the voice. We do have to open the voice up to flexibility and agility. And we can do that with various exercises, open up the range of our voice, open up that kind of movement in the voice. All of that comes with training, so that then when we are in a situation where we are needing to present or talk, then we are free to express because the voice is already fully open. So at the heart of this, pardon the pun, is to truly connect to our most expressive self. We have to connect to our heart. And that means getting out of our head. And most of us, I'd say all of us, are conditioned to operate very much in our head. And we're quite disconnected to our body. We're disconnected to our voice. Even when emotions come up, we tend to be very good at pushing them away. But all of that is what we have to connect to, because that's what people really connect to. So we get out of our own way. We look at what we kind of pushed away in terms of what we learned and were taught that was acceptable and what we've pushed away. Then we can start to integrate the fullness of ourselves. You couple that with voice training and the strengthening and the building flexibility and agility in the voice and opening up the range and dynamics in the voice. And then bam, that is the voice that people want to listen to. So we're not trying to micromanage expression, because you already know how to express. We're getting you out of the way, and we're making sure the voice is primed and ready and strong and flexible so that you can express powerfully and authentically, which is really important. So if that has resonated with you at all, I'd love to know below in the comments. If this is something that you're interested in, delving more deeply in a private way and working privately on your voice, please do get in contact. I'll put the links below. But until then, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on my next video.